What's up, everybody? It is Jordan here from W&W with another great unit spotlight video. Today, we're taking a look at what I think is probably one of the best support pieces of Warhammer 40k right now, and absolutely probably one of the top three, if not the top unit in the Tyranid Codex right now. We're taking a deep dive into the Hive Tyrant. I refer to the Hive Tyrant as the buff machine, the buff bug, because that's really what he's doing. And throughout this entire video, I'm going to be primarily focusing more on the synergies that the Hive Tyrant provides for your army rather than actually activating with him and attacking with him. I do think he has a pretty good offense in some regards. However, that's not really the reason why we are paying 235 points plus with enhancements in order to bring such a strong unit. So, the basics of this buff machine is you get a free stratagem each turn. It's not each battle round, it's each turn, which is a clear distinction from a lot of captain like abilities that other armies have. So Tyranids get a little bit of a boost right there. So that's good. So remember that you use it on your turn as well as your opponent's turn, which is already super strong. We have the Assault Aura, and in Pariah Nexus, at first it was kind of, at first, not necessarily at first because everything came out at once, but they kind of nerfed the Assault Aura, meaning that things can't do actions if they advanced, unless otherwise stated, with some battle line criteria, I guess. So they also gave the Hive Tyrant a Lethal's Aura, which is phenomenal. So even though you can't do actions and advance with the Hive Tyrant anymore, what you can do is you can have an aura of assault and an aura of lethals that projects 6 inches and can spread throughout your Tyranid army, which is extremely powerful. It is a durable chassis with 2 up save and then toughness 10. That is a hard nut to crack for a lot of armies. And it definitely allows for your support piece to kind of stick around a little bit longer than if it was like a Space Marine captain or whatever, which is important because unless you are dedicating a brick of Tyrant Guard to your Hive Tyrant, he's going to be just hanging out on his own. People are going to be targeting him. And in most cases, I don't recommend putting Tyrant Guard with Hive Tyrant, except for one situation, which we'll talk about later. But I just feel like the Tyrant Guard kind of muck up the Hive Tyrant's movement and actually make it harder for you to measure out and decide where your Assault Aura and where your Lethal's Aura is going to be placed within your Tyranid army. And then last but not least, for the basics of this big bug guy, as it's got a pretty good offense, and that's pretty much, I think that's the main descripting factor. Is his offense is pretty good. He's got good melee attacks. He has good options for ranged weapons. We'll talk about which to pick later on in the video as well. This guy is pretty good. He's not going to go out and kill units upon units, but he is definitely going to be a late game anchor piece that you're going to want to be able to utilize efficiently. Looking at some key strategies that I encourage you to think about when you are using the Hive Tyrant in your games is basically, we can all bottle it up into one phrase: is placement is key. I talked about in my first 5 tips to be a better Tyranid player video, or one of the first tips I believe was using a proxy base to help you plan out where your Hive Tyrant's movement is going to go to help you measure those 6-inch aura. If you're not familiar with the term proxy base, that means just get another 60 millimeter base, which is what the Hive Tyrant is put on, and just have it be empty and use that to place it where you think your Hive Tyrant wants to move, to kind of judge out how much he needs to advance if he needs to, or where your other units need to land after that Hive Tyrant has moved so that they are able to get the benefits of the lethals and assault aura of 6 inches. It can kind of help out planning out your movement phase in the turn just a little bit, and make sure that all of your units are able to gain benefits from that aura because you are placing it so carefully. It's just a little tip. But when you're deploying, if you'll see this map that I've placed right here, I always make sure that my Hive Tyrant is kind of placed in the situation where I've placed it right there. So he's kind of right in the middle behind the terrain, and I have 3 units here. I have a Maliceptor up top. I have Zoanthropes that are hidden in this castle right here, and then I have a Tyrannofex at the bottom that is also hidden as best as you can. These pictures are hard to actually hide with the terrain, so just do your best to imagine I did them correctly. So with this placement, it really allows for any of these 3 units to still gain benefits from the 6-inch aura of lethals or assault. So if I really need my Maliceptor to advance and maybe shoot something that has come up to the middle, or maybe to stage and shoot just a scout unit or something, then my Hive Tyrant will be able to move up to the north. It'll be able to move its 8 inches and then hopefully still touch within that 6 inches of the Maliceptor, maybe by using that proxy base. Um, However, if we talk about the Zoanthropes, Zoanthropes are a fantastic unit to make use of this 6-inch aura. Something that I like to do is if my Zoanthropes are ready to jump out from cover, and I don't necessarily need my Narrow Tyrant. If I feel like I can definitely get by not having my Narrow Tyrant be directly up there as well, I can string back my Narrow Tyrant a little bit, just because the unit's footprint is so big, and then maybe just have the Narrow Tyrant be within 6 of the Hive Tyrant, because it's just the unit needs to be within range of 6. It's not each model. So if I'm able to string out this Zoanthrope brick, maybe using the Narrow Tyrant as kind of like a backwards anchor, then the entire unit benefits from the 6 inches of lethals and assault. So that could be something that you can plan out as well. And then, of course, I think it's very, very, very necessary if you are running Zoanthropes to run the Hive Tyrant, because a 5-inch move with a 24-inch range is just not enough. And then the Tyrannofex, looking at that at the bottom, it's going to catch some people by surprise. It moves 9 inches, which is already a weird amount of movement. And then if you advance with the Tyrannofex with a Rupture Cannon, it's disgusting. So if you look at this placement right here, you have Maliceptor up top, you have Zoanthropes in the middle, and you have the Tyrannofex at the bottom. You're going to be able to pretty much dictate wherever you want your aura to go and react to your opponent's movement or your opponent's deployment, and pretty much put the best gun in the best spot for wherever it is. Now, talking about making sure that your aura is in the right place, when you are moving the Hive Tyrant, you need to think at least 14 inches to kind of plan out where this assault or where this lethal aura is going to be. And 14 inches, of course, because that's the 8-inch move of the Hive Tyrant, and then an additional 6 inches for the assault and lethal aura. Now, sometimes what I do is if I'm thinking about advancing my Hive Tyrant, because honestly that's the case, he's often running. So because he's not charging super early, instead of that 14-inch number, I estimate 17 inches, because I feel like my advance roll is most likely going to be at least a 3. That is kind of like the standard. And then that allows me to plan for just a little bit more of a reach. Be careful with doing this though, because if you end up rolling a 2 or 1 and then you're just out of range with your advance, then that could be really tough. But it is something to just kind of eyeball. And then before you finish your movement, double check you're within 12 inches of possible units that are needing any strats that your detachment provides for them. If this is an invasion, which we'll talk about in a second, the 5-up feel no pain is very good, even on like gargoyles or hormagaunts or something like that. So make sure that if you have any units that are extending themselves out to the center of the board, that your Hive Tyrant is within 12 if you are planning on giving them some Hive Tyrant support. It's kind of crazy. Again, I'm going to say it again, like this entire slide, the entire synergy and strategies of using a Hive Tyrant, being really good at using this model, is making sure that you're planning out and pre-measuring. So you got to pre-measure and make sure things are within 6. They need that assault aura as well as lethals. And then you also got to pre-measure within 12 to make sure that any key units that are needing stratagem support from the Hive Tyrant are able to get that. And certainly, last but not least, on these key strategies for the Hive Tyrant, is use your free CP on your turn aggressively. You're not going to get it back. So we are fortunate enough as Tyranids that we are able to activate the Hive Tyrant's free stratagem on your turn and your opponent's turn because of the way it is worded. Um, so I kind of spin that aggressively. If I don't have any real need for like adrenal surge or anything like that for a stratagem, and I know I'm not really getting into heavy combat, then I honestly will use it on things that I wouldn't normally use it on because it's free CP. I will use it to reroll that advance that I need for my Hive Tyrant to make sure he's in position. I will use it to reroll number of shots from my Maliceptor to make sure that he's able to activate in a way that benefits the army. Normally, I wouldn't, but if you don't use the free stratagem on your turn, you don't get it back. It's just gone, you know? While we're here, I just wanted to make a quick announcement, something that I'm excited for, and I think is going to be really cool for our channel and really cool for our community, is very soon I'm going to be starting live streams where I review your list, your Tyranid list. So if you are interested in submitting a list that you would like to be reviewed, I'm going to make a community post on our community page on Wednesday Night Warhammer. Go ahead, comment on that, and then just you can paste your army list. Give a brief description on what you would like to be reviewed. Kind of talk about what synergies you're looking at and what is maybe your game plan. And then I'll do my best to look through it. I'm looking for the first list review to be on November 11th, sometime in the later afternoon Eastern Standard Time. So I'm thinking probably 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be really cool. I still have a little bit of work to do for that, so that date is not set in stone, but I will make an announcement when we are actually going to go live for these list reviews. Everything is going to be free. I'm not going to ask for any submission or whatever for your list to be reviewed. I'm excited to do it. However, if we do have an influx of a whole bunch of lists coming in, which I'm not sure will happen, I will kind of cater a little bit first to our members that are on the channel, but I will always make sure that I mix in members and non-members just so we can spread the love and make sure that everybody is getting a little bit of knowledge and help with further bugs, So if this is something that you are interested in, please head over to our community tab, submit your list that in the post that has been created there. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are as well. Okay, so before we move on to some combos and synergies within specific detachments that I think are going to be pretty useful to look at, I want to talk about just overall support piece standards and kind of how you need to approach the game with your support pieces, whether you're playing Tyranids or any other army that has key units that help your army do its thing. You got to be nice to your bug overlord, okay? Only expose this guy when you need to. Make sure that he is kind of castled up and he's pretty protected. Most lists are not running a bunch of Tyrant Guard. I don't really recommend Tyrant Guard unless you're talking about a very specific build. So yes, he has a pretty good defense. However, if your opponent looks at it with its entire army, odds are your Hive Tyrant is probably going to die and will probably have a sad face like I've very cleverly photoshopped over. Okay, next bullet point is the Hive Tyrant has good offense, but your gun line and your other units whose job it is to kill things are going to do a better job at killing things than your Hive Tyrant. I think that's just the standard. Your Maliceptors, your Exocrines, your Tyrannifexes, your Gene Stealers are all going to do a better job at killing things than your Hive Tyrant is. Full stop. And that's just the way it is. You're paying 235 points base for the Hive Tyrant for its support. Buffs its support platform, for its free stratagems, and for its assault and lethals. You're honestly, in my opinion, not really paying for it for its 6 bone sword attacks or for its D3 venom cannon shots. You're paying for it to help your army do its thing. So kind of remind yourself, don't go old Leroy Jenkins with your Hive Tyrant, and make sure it's a little bit protected. And something that does come up, however, is it doesn't do a good job killing like standard units all over the place at the beginning of the game. However, it is a phenomenal late game anchor. So turn 4, turn 5, you really want to then have your Hive Tyrant be charging in and cleaning up anything that is still left on objective markers to to just kind of ensure your victory. And that's kind of how I use him. I think the earliest I've ever really charged my Hive Tyrant is turn 3, and then turn 4 and turn 5. I'm really able to just use him to clean up any surviving pieces from my opponent, and that really kind of allows me to use his stratagem, regen, and his auras to the best of their ability for the majority of the game. And remember, he's very durable. Yes, 2-up save, T10, 10 wounds, 4-up invul, and he probably has a 5-up feel no pain if you're in invasion. However, if your opponent is able to point their entire army at your Hive Tyrant, he's dead. So make sure that you are really doing your best to kind of hide him, and make sure that you make use of all of his support pieces throughout the duration of the game, instead of sending him out there too early and then he dies, which would be really sad. I'm biased. I think invasion is the best. I'm sorry, but the first attachment we're going to talk about is invasion fleet, and how I like to run this Hive Tyrant with invasion fleet. It allows you to take sustained hit almost all of the time. Now, that is sometimes can be a little bit of a difficult decision for which adaptive you're going to choose for invasion fleet, depending on the army you're going into. And the Hive Tyrant giving out lethals definitely allows you to just kind of no brain lock in sustained hits pretty much all the time, because that also allows for, if things are within 6 inches of your Hive Tyrant, that means that they're going to get sustained hits and lethals, which can be very, very, very good, and can definitely pump up your damage exponentially at that point. In addition, Invasion Fleet, in my opinion, probably has the best stratagems in the entire codex. You have a 5-up Feel No Pain, you have Adrenal Surge, which is crits on 5s, you have Regenning with your Endless Swarm, you have Overrun, you have a Fight on Death too, and you can switch imperatives. Whew. It's just, you're really, really going to get a whole lot of value out of the Hive Tyrant. There's a lot of those stratagems, if you think about it, are activated on your turn. So that means you can use your free stratagem on your turn, in addition to your opponent's turn, and really make use of your Hive Tyrant's full ability. Something like sending something out. You're out of CP, but your Gene Stealers kill a unit, and then they're within 12 of your Hive Tyrant. Go ahead, free overrun and reposition it. It's fantastic. If you have some Endless Swarm units that have been whittled down a little bit in your command phase, you can pop the Endless Swarm strat, regrow them, take over an objective or something like that, and it's very good use. It's just honestly phenomenal. And if you're playing Invasion Fleet, I cannot recommend the Hive Tyrant anymore. I really can't. And then last but certainly not least, I pretty much instant lock in adaptive biology on the Hive Tyrant. Maybe that's I don't know, maybe that's a weak point of my list building or my playstyle, but the Hive Tyrant is pretty much going to have the 5-up Feel No Pain, and then if he is able to give like your Maliceptor or something else a 5-up Feel No Pain as well, then you're going to have 2 pretty durable units just walking around the field looking at your opponent with 5-up Feel No Pain, which makes your opponent really sad. Okay, a detachment I honestly haven't really mentioned at all on this channel is Assimilation Swarm, but I think the Hive Tyrant is so unique in this detachment that I think it is definitely worth mentioning and talking about for a second. There are builds, and if you haven't yet, check out Maelstrom Gaming. He's a very good Tyranid content creator, and he has had a lot of success with an Assimilation Swarm build. I think he got like second in a GT or something like that with a Hive Tyrant build. Basically, he had Hive Tyrant, Swarm Lord, and then 12 Tyrant Guard, which is just phenomenal. I think it's amazing. So if you're in a Assimilation Swarm and you bring the Hive Tyrant, 12 Tyrant Guard, and you're able to regenerate Tyrant Guard, that is just disgusting. And it can be a horrendous combo for your opponent to chew through, because you have so many of these really durable bodies supported by a Hive Tyrant. It can just be awful. And then what I think he did over there at Maelstrom Gaming is he gives the Hive Tyrant fights first enhancement and instinctive defense. So that means you can heroic for free and then fight first if you're within a harvester unit. Oh my gosh, fight firsting Tyrant Guard with a Hive Tyrant is just that's a disgusting combo, and I think it's really cool that that was figured out and used for. In addition, Assimilation Swarm has some goofy stratagems. And like the 4-up Feel No Pain for Harvester units is 2 CP, but if you have a Hive Tyrant around, 1 CP is pretty good for that rate. You can just send your Har specs up. And it's got a 4-up Feel No Pain on an objective marker, and it's really, really hard to take care of, especially if you have a heroic intervention Hive Tyrant that fights first too. Oh my gosh. So the Hive Tyrant and the Tyrant Guard combo, I think in Assimilation Storm, that's really where you want to do Tyrant Guard. I don't think any other detachments you necessarily want to lean into that combo. I could be wrong, but I generally think that the Tyrant Guard just kind of gum up the battlefield more than really allow for the Hive Tyrant to make use of its art. That's just my opinion. If you want to take a look at more Assimilation Swarm stuff, go check out Maelstrom Gaming if you haven't already. They have some really good content. And they just kind of go way more in depth with the Assimilation Swarm than I have yet. I don't own nearly enough Pyroforce for me to get actual games with the detachment, so that's kind of why it's been on the back burner. But if you're interested more in this combo, go check out their channel and it learn some really cool stuff. The last detachment that we're kind of just checking in on with some maybe obvious strategies that the Hive Tyrant is going to have is a Synaptic Nexus. I really like this detachment as just a big old gun line that allows for different stratagems to really turn and make the Tyranid guns just kind of decimate your opponent. But talking about combos specifically with the Hive Tyrant is first, it's Synapse. So, so it is going to be able to give that Synapse aura for units that are around and allow for the buffs of Synaptic Nexus to really turn on and be able to be applicable throughout your army. Yeah, if you do the -1 damage enhancement on the Hive Tyrant, it is pretty strong as well. It's not nearly as good, in my opinion, as a 5-up Feel No Pain, but it does allow for your Hive Tyrant to be pretty tanky, and I think that enhancement is very appropriately priced, so it's pretty good. In addition, if you are running Synaptic Nexus, you're probably running some amount of Zoanthropes. And if you're running Zoanthropes, then you have to be running a Hive Tyrant. Sorry, I don't make the rules, but Zoanthropes moving 5 inches is just very much not enough. So you're going to want to have that advance and shoot and allow for your Hive Tyrant to get into position to allow your Zoanthropes to activate in a way that benefits them. In addition, it's pretty good with the Zoanthropes too, and I talked about this earlier, because you can string them out a bunch and allow for that 6-inch aura to kind of reach way more than you would think, because there's going to be so many models in that unit. Normally 7, because you're running it with the Neuro Tyrant. So if you want to string the Neuro Tyrant back to get benefits from that 6-inch aura a little bit more, you're absolutely able to do so. So some stratagems that you can use are of course going to be the Armor of Contempt for Tyranid, which is pretty good for the Hive Tyrant himself. I think that's most of the time what you're going to be using it to activate into, unless you're running Norns, then of course trigger the Armor of Contempt with Norns. And then Irresistible Will is crazy good for this detachment. If you haven't heard me talk about it already, go ahead and check out my detachment review on Synaptic Nexus. But Irresistible Will just does a massive amount of damage, and having your Hive Tyrant there to be able to pop it for free is just really good. So if you're running Synaptic Nexus, really consider putting the Hive Tyrant in there because of these combo and synergy pieces. Age-old debate of whether you're using Scything Talons or a cannon on your Hive Tyrant. Really, this conversation started to spark again and have some, I guess, some weight to the argument between the two in June, when the Synapse buff gave +1 to Strength. So your Hive Tyrant Bone Sword is always hitting on Strength 10 because of the Synapse, and then if you add the Scything Talons with the extra attacks there, it is now hitting at Strength 8, which is actually a phenomenal breaking point, because that means you get to kill Marines on 2s, which is wonderful. We love to see that. However, I will agree that having 10 attacks with your Hive Tyrant is better than having 6 attacks with your Hive Tyrant. I also want to make sure that I'm using him to the best of my ability. And I've talked about a lot in this video where I use him predominantly as a support piece and making sure he's within range of shooting units and really letting those units kind of take the forefront of the offense as opposed to my Hive Tyrant. So if you're protecting your tyrant, range is probably preferable to more combat. Because if you have a heavy venom cannon, then he is possibly able to activate all 5 turns of the game in some regard in offense. Because he will be able to shoot with his heavy venom cannon, 36 inches is great range, and he'll be able to do some damage. This is a 3 damage weapon. It is strength 9, AP2, 3 damage. That's pretty good. That's not terrible, and you will be able to shoot that 5 turns. You're probably going to be able to activate your Hive Tyrant in melee 2 turns, maybe 3 turns. And in the way that I play my Hive Tyrant, he is kind of cagey. It allows to support my army instead of running up and Leroy Jenkins into the forefront of the combat. So I definitely lean towards more the heavy venom cannon as opposed to the scything talons. But honestly, it probably is personal preference. That is kind of where I lean. I definitely see my Hive Tyrant as a very valuable piece. So I'm going to want to keep him back a little bit. So because of that, he's going to have a heavy venom cannon, because that's the most useful way to use his data sheet, is to just shoot from afar. Now, if you're doing assimilation swarm, that combo where you're kind of pushing him up because he has 6 tyrant guard and he's gonna heroic and he's gonna fight first for free, then that's a case where you definitely run the scything talons instead of the heavy venom cannon. And most times I think you run the heavy venom cannon just to get those chip shots and just to get more use of your assault aura. Okay, just reflecting on the beginning of the video and all of the things that we've discussed in this video so far. Just give a brief summary. Things to remember for this: use your free strat on your turn aggressively for your Hive Tyrant. Don't do it crazy, but really remember that you got to make use of that. Try and plan out stratagems that you can use on your turn to effect, so that you are really able to make full use of such a great support piece. Okay. Pre-measure 14 at least for the assault aura, and make sure kind of 14 is your starting point. And then if you want to do advances, then kind of estimate 17, because that hopefully 3-inch advance at least, but be careful with that again. And then double check that 12 inches within any of your units that may or may not want to benefit from any free stratagem support on your opponent's turn before you finish your movement. Think about the Hive Tyrant as a support piece. Have it clean up fights. Don't have it initiate fights. It's very good at going in and just finishing off units that have already been kind of whittled down by your shooting or maybe by one of your skirmishing units. It's not one of those models or units that are just going to go in and completely 100% decimate a unit in one go. So use it to clean up. Don't really use the Hive Tyrant to initiate fights or trade wars, and that kind of goes into my last bullet point, is the Hive Tyrant is a phenomenal late game piece. Around turn 4 and turn 5, of course, your opponent's resources are probably going to be pretty whittled down. So there is a strong argument to think about that they're not going to be able to activate and kill your Hive Tyrant very easily. So think about that and kind of use it as a good way to just shore up your victory at the end of the game, instead of throwing your Hive Tyrant out early, letting your opponent get an advantage by killing your Hive Tyrant. Thanks everybody for watching. This video actually ended up being much longer than I thought it would. I guess I had a lot to say about our little bug commander. If you enjoyed this video, please like, please comment, subscribe. If you want your Tyranid list to be reviewed, head on over to our community tab and place your list, your army list in there. I'm excited to get these live streams going for list reviews, and I hope that's something that you enjoy. All right. Anyways, take care. Have a good week. I'll see you Wednesday.